Welcome to Stay Focus. Our topic is lead paint and deleading. My guest today is John McIsaac. John is the president of ASAP Environmental in Boston. ASAP Environmental has been in business since 1993, and John has been a lead inspector, a mold inspector since 1991. And he's today going to be sharing lead paint and also lead inspection as well. Welcome, John.
Welcome. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you
Thanks
for being
having
on the
me.
show. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in knowing what is lead paint and also how the lead paint being deleted, because I'm sure that a lot of homes, especially in Massachusetts, might have lead paint in them. So I believe this is an interesting topic to talk about. So with that being said, what is lead paint law?
Well, the law in Massachusetts requires that any property built prior to 1978 with a child under the age of 6, whether it's owner-occupied or tenant-occupied, be in compliance with the Massachusetts lead law. That lead law does not require that property be lead-free. It requires that there be what called lead-safe. So in order to do that, we'd have to have an inspection done, what's called a full comprehensive initial inspection. And that's what we do.
Right. So basically you will take care of the problem from A to Z, if you will.
Yes, on the inspection
Right.
side, we'll do
Right.
inspections, consulting, we'll do spec writing, job oversight, and at the end of the job, we'll come in and do a re-inspection to verify everything was done correctly and issue a letter of compliance.
I see. Okay. So what is deleading?
Deleading is when a licensed company is doing work on a property that has an inspection done on it, and people are looking to get a letter of compliance. And the deleading can take many shapes and forms. And on most surfaces, you can have between 4 and 6 options for the compliance, or in this case here for deleading. And that could be, you could replace a surface, you could scrape it, you could chemically strip it, you could dip it, you maybe use an encapsulating paint on it, you could make it intact, you could cover it. So depending on where the surface is located and the condition of the paint on the surface determines what options would be available.
I see. And in this case, who can do the deleading? I mean, does it have to be a certified deleading company, or it could be a licensed contractor? I mean, who can do the deleading?
Well, the state uses the term authorized person, and that would be somebody that either has what's called a high-risk license, a moderate-risk license, or a low-risk license.
Right.
A high-risk deleader is a person that does this for a living every day. They can cover all the bases. They can do replacing, scraping, whatever you need to have done. Traditional deleading company. A moderate risk person is either, it could be a homeowner, or it could be a contractor, or a management person, or a maintenance person. They would go get certified to be able to do what's called moderate risk deleading, which allows them to do everything a traditional deleader could do, except for excessive scraping or demolition of walls and ceilings.
I see. Yeah.
And then there's low risk, which low risk is just a matter of doing work on what's called what's the term? Low risk deleading is that no dust generating work. So
Okay.
if they were doing
General works.
exactly, if you were doing covering a wall or putting vinyl siding on the outside of the house, those are examples of low risk deleading.
I see. And in terms of lead paint, where can a homeowner or a normal person know whether the house has lead paint or not? What can they find, and what do they know where to find the lead paint in their house?
Okay, so the first thing they do is they would have to have an inspection by a licensed inspector. And then after the inspection is completed, we will show which areas are positive or negative for lead paint on the report. And if the surface is positive for lead paint, it's either a lead hazard or not a lead hazard. If it's not a lead hazard, then it's not required to be deleaded.
Right.
If
right.
it is a hazard, then it is required to be deleaded and brought into compliance by somebody authorized to do that work.
I see. So where can they find the lead paint? Where they can find the lead paint inspectors, or a deleading company, if you will.
Okay. Well, the state has lists. The Department of Health, through the Child-Led Poison Prevention Program, they're the ones that certify us to be inspectors, and they keep a list of all the inspectors, and they have it on their website.
Right.
And on the deleading side, the Department of Labor Standards oversees them, and they also have a list of contractors. More often than not, people today are finding people through the net. Most of our work, we're coming through.
Right?
Yeah, Google is the way to go. I mean,
That's right. Yeah.
at one time it was the yellow pages, but that's no longer the way it is. So time moves on. And but typically, if you go online, you'll be able to find out who you need. And our suggestion is always that even if you're looking for an inspector, do some background checks on it. I know with our company, we go on Angie's List, you go on the Better Business Bureau, and you can also check in with the state and see what the track record is for those companies. So it's a good idea to do your research and then make your right decision.
I see. When you say research, so when people go into the mass.gov, let's say, and check on the license, I mean that's one of the research that they can do in terms of, to know whether that contractor, has litigations or complaints by the clients or from their clients. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So because a lot of people say, where can I find the research? And this is one of them. And also read the comments online as well from the customers.
Right, and actually it's very good that people really should actually do their homework, because in this industry there's been over 90% turnover since the law came into play in 1988.
Right.
For both inspectors and deletters. So at its peak, which is probably about 10, 12 years ago, there was over 600 inspectors. Now there's less than 80.
Wow.
And so there's certainly been a decline, and part of that is due to some of the people that came in maybe weren't as competent as they should be, or didn't understand the fact that you couldn't do this as a weekend job. It's not a part-time thing. People usually want you yesterday.
Right,
it's not like you wake up in the morning and say, gee, I think I'll have a lead inspection done today. There's usually something going on that drives that.
Yeah, yeah. Because there is an investment required by the homeowners or landlord. And I'm sure that based on my experience, some of them might not be willing to invest into something like this. Yeah. So it takes some education and some will, to protect people who live in a home, or have the home treated so that the landlord can rent to more what do you call that, circle of tenants, outside the regular tenants, if you will.
Right.
So yeah, so that's why they have to invest and also educate themselves as well. So for lead painting, I mean, what is encapsulation? I mean, how does it work?
Well, encapsulation is a product that's similar to paint, actually. It has a different form than paint. It goes on thicker than paint, and it's used as some of the interior surfaces can be used as a abatement method. It has a warranty of at least 20 years, and there are a number of products on the market that you can be had. But we're running into situations though with encapsulants that people are confused because they think they can put the encapsulant on before we go in and do the inspection, and thinking that they're in compliance so that everything is all set. And that's not necessarily the case, because we're testing surfaces with our X-ray machine.
Right.
And that X-ray machine goes down 3/8 of an inch, so it's going to shoot through the encapsulant. It's going to find out what's on the other side of that. And if the surface is positive for lead and it's considered a lead hazard, then they've unfortunately put the cart before the horse, and maybe cause themselves some problems. But it potentially can be used on many inside surfaces. And for us, we encourage our clients to consider using encapsulants. It's a great long-term method for compliance. Typically, it's the least expensive way of bringing a property into compliance, or a surface into compliance. But understanding that once compliance is issued, you're still going to have lead paint under that encapsulant, so it's required to be what's called maintained by the owner. So just a general maintenance thing, you make sure that it's still in good condition. And one other thing about encapsulants versus traditional paints is that it's very resilient. It's thicker than traditional paint, so it takes a little bit more of the banging and the bruising that they can handle it versus maybe some of the other paints could not.
I see. So when you deleading, let's say an area, simply put, let's say just use the wall or the window frame, if you will. So do you have to remove like sheetrock or something like that, 5 feet up from the ground? And how does it work? I mean, and repaint the whole well, not the whole, but half portion of the wall, so that the lead paint doesn't exist 5 feet up above ground, so that the when the child lean against the wall or lick the wall, then there won't be any lead paint poisoning, if you will.
Okay.
So,
Well, we should start with this. Any surface that's positive for lead paint, whether it's inside or outside the house, at the top of the house or the base of the house, needs to be in compliance in order to get a certificate of compliance. Where that 5-foot level comes into play, that's primarily around abatement methods.
abatement method.
Yes, so your example there of putting sheetrock on a wall, if you were to put it on there, first of all, that wall would just have to be intact to be in compliance with the law anyway. As long as the paint is in good condition, then you would not even have to put that sheetrock on there. So, because
The
we're
new
not looking
sheetrock.
exactly,
I
you
see.
don't. You could just, as long as the paint stays intact, it's in compliance with the law.
Right.
But then again, the owner is required to maintain that surface. Versus if they cover it with the sheetrock,
Right.
then they don't have to worry about that surface again. So that's
okay.
then you have a choice on methods. So you
Right.
could do covering, you
Yep.
could to keep it intact.
I see. Yeah.
But people use the 5-foot level that comes into play on abatement like of surfaces that are called accessible and multiple. They come to an outside corner below 5 feet, like door frames and window frames are good examples of that. So if you would say use the scraping method for as a compliance standard, then you would have to scrape up to 5 feet down to bare wood. Then above 5 feet, it has to be intact. You don't find the scraping is used as much today as it was in the past, but it's still a method for compliance. And again, remembering that above that 5-foot level, you still have lead paint that's required to be maintained.
Right. Right.
So more often people are taking it out, are replacing it totally, so they don't have to worry about about maintaining it. And and the costs are comparable for doing both. So
Right,
many
right.
times it's in the best interest of the client, get rid of as much as you can, don't have to worry about maintaining it. And that way, that they're able to, sleep a little bit better at night, not worry about the paint that's peeling in their apartment or in one of their rental units.
That's right. So when you said intact, which means that no peeling paints, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yep. So, and in terms of lead poisoning, I mean, how does it affect a child? So we have some pictures here, which those are the side effects that would affect a child under 6.
Yeah.
Yep. Like for example here, nerve damage or brain damage due to lead paint poisoning, digestive issues, hearing problems, and also growth, I believe. So those are the effects that would affect a child who is under 6 who get exposure to lead paint poisoning.
Yes.
Is that right?
That is, and
Yeah.
but it's not just children that are affected by it. And in this state,
There's
actually,
another side effect as well.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
adults can
right.
be get it. My dog got lead poison.
Oh,
And,
okay. Yeah,
so-
also, those are the side effects.
Yeah,
right?
yes, and
Right.
so it's the reason that children are impacted by it is that their systems haven't developed. They can't flush out the heavy metals that get into their system.
Right.
As a result, they end up with you or I, if we're in good shape, we'll be able to flush them out. But if they can't, and the problems are, some of these here, but I mean, worst case scenario, there are children that have died from this, which is rare, but it has happened. But typically, it's a loss of IQ points, and as a result of the loss of IQ points, the loss of learning potential, which can come down, if you want to talk dollars and cents, to earning potential also.
Right, right.
So, but there are other things that can happen too. I mean, you talk about it here, damage to kidneys, they're looking at lead as actually being a potential carcinogen now. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of research coming in indicating that
Right.
we know a lot about it now, but we're learning more about it as we go along too. And more often than not, the information we're getting is not good.
Right. So, yeah, how to hear that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in terms of lead paint poisoning, now, most landlords out there, the ones that didn't want to invest into deleading of a property. So, if the child get lead poisoning, what are the liabilities as a landlord?
Okay. So, lead poisoning is, first of all, we should probably say what that is. And then it's a level of lead in the blood that's greater than 25 deciliters. And so that if a child is poisoned, then a person like myself, a private side person, would not be involved. That's when the state gets involved, you know, the local board of health, and there's mandates being given to that owner, because once that child moves into the property, whether they have children, whether they have lead poison or not, or elevated blood lead levels, once that child lives in that unit, the owner is supposed to have a letter of compliance to show that there were no lead hazards in the unit or the common areas exterior. If he does not have that and a child gets poisoned, then there's potential civil litigation that goes along with that. But the primary thing is that the child is, can have serious damage as a result of what happened, and nobody wants to see that happen. This is a preventable illness. This can be taken care of just by people being conscious of the fact that lead can be a problem, but knowledge is important too, and the fact that if you know where the lead is at, that gives you power to say, okay, I know what we have here, we can take care of it, we can manage the problem, and lower the potential for children getting sick.
I see.
So as a grandparent, that's going to be my concern. I live in an 1830 house, and we've made it safe for our grandchildren. And I think I think they're afraid. I think people they hear about testing, they think that's going to cost them a lot of money, and it's going to be bringing all kinds of problems. But the fact is that if they get the property deleaded, and it gives them the option of renting it to anybody if it's a rental property. And then when they're selling the property, depending on the market, it may actually make the house a little more attractive than when it's not abated, particularly with investors. So if it gets to be a lead poisoning problem, you're dealing with the state. If it's lower than that, then you deal with the inspectors like us, and we give them information on how to go about and abate the property, the different methods that are available to them. They make the decision to bring it into compliance, because if they don't, they're going to be dealing with them people from the state, and they won't be dealing with somebody like us. And then once the job is completed, we'll come in and verify that the work was done by somebody that was authorized to do that. That potentially could be the owner if they got licensed, making sure the work was done in a professional manner, making sure there's no visible debris or dust. If that passes, then we do what's called a set of dust wipes. Those dust wipes are done to make sure the proper setup, containment, and cleanup was done, and they're done in specific areas designated by the state. We send those to our lab. There's a standard that needs to be reached. If everything comes back okay, we get the letter of compliance to the owner. That removes them from liability, allowing children there under the age of 6. Also allows them to get a potential tax credit of up to $1,500. It's a dollar for dollar credit. They can take in one lump sum, or they can spread out up to 7 years.
I see.
So the thing to do is to find out first, so you don't get to the point where, we have a child with an elevated blood level, or we have a child that's poisoned. Find out what you have first, then you make informed decisions.
So, for example, a number of property owners, when they sold their properties, and on the lead paint form, they said, unknown. We don't have any reports. We just give you a lead paint form notification transfer, and then we don't know. We don't know whether the home has lead paint or not. Now, with that statement or answer, eliminate them from any future lawsuits?
Well, in a sales situation, that the buyer picks up liability on the property 90 days after purchase of the property.
90 days after purchase.
So the previous owner is off the hook at that time. Up until that point, they still have liability on the property, called strict liability.
The former owner.
That's correct. Up until 90 days. After 90 days, then they're free, and it's passed on to the new owners. Now, we run into many situations where people have been given information from the current owner, and the current owner not knowing that there had been some history on the property of inspection, because they didn't get it from the previous owner, who may not have got it from the previous owner. So there is actually a website that they can go to at the Child Lead Poison Prevention Program, and they punch in the address for the property, and if there has been an inspection done there, they'll have the information on who did it and when, and if the property was either brought into compliance or not brought into compliance. And then if that company is still in business, the owner could access that information from the company, and then give the proper information to any potential buyers. So we find this a lot, that there actually is information out there that the current owners don't know about. So we always suggest, particularly to people in the real estate community, go to the website, check it out.
Which one is it?
It's actually in the package I gave you. It's about this long.
So,
but if they go to the Child Lead Poison Prevention Program, and they'll point them out too. It's child and it has lead docs,
Right.
and that will get them the information that they need. And you can do it. And as inspectors, we are required to send the cover sheet for any report that we do, as well as any compliance that are in the state, which went into the database and now is on their website. So it's a powerful tool, and it's certainly a lot of people who are under the mistaken impression that their property may not have been tested, or some people say, well, it's deleaded, or there's no lead here. Well, they actually haven't really know that. They're making that statement, and that can potentially get you in trouble. As you know, you got to be careful what you say when in any kind of sales transaction. So
that's right. That's right. So the owners, including myself, can go to the website and check whether the property has been tested with lead paint or not.
That's correct.
Okay, got it.
And whether it was brought into compliance or not, too. It will have that information there.
I see. So if properties were tested with lead paint, if they're not compliant, then basically there will be no record on the website.
Sure, there would be. It would have that. It would have down there. Just have the when the inspection was done and by who, address of the property, and it would have the violations found. It wouldn't say where or how many, but it would. So one way or another, it's either in violation or not in violation. It's a black and white issue. Property is either in compliance or not in compliance. There's no in between.
Okay, got it. So what if it does not in compliance? Then it is the responsibility of either the current owner or the former owner to delete the property.
It wouldn't. Well, it's always in the sales transaction. It's always up to the buyer to either have the inspection done or not have it done.
Right.
So even if they got a report from the previous owner, the previous owner is not required to get the property deleted. Now they could if they wanted to, if it was part of the sale agreement.
Right.
They can make decisions. We'll pay X amount of dollars. You take X amount of dollars off the price or whatever. But it's always up to the buyer to get any inspections done and or to get the property brought into compliance by doing abatement.
I see. Got it. So yeah, so it's very useful information. Now, this is one of the most important questions. Cost. How much? I mean, not how much, but of course, you can give me the price, but what does it go by based on the cost? What does it go by? Is it go by the square footage of the space, or is it go by the living area? How does the cost come into effect when you deleting the place?
Okay, well, it would depend upon, first of all, the number of surfaces that are lead hazards on the property, the option that's chosen to bring that in compliance. You want the Mercedes, you want a Volkswagen, you want something in between.
Okay, different levels.
Exactly, exactly.
Yep,
and what comes into play here too, obviously pocketbook issues come into play, but also aesthetics, historical value, which lead to resale value.
Right.
So we try to get our clients, get them, information so they can make the informed decision as to what's best for them, and which may not be best for the person next door or somebody else.
Right.
But we've had jobs. I just wrote up a work spec for a job in Brookline. It's a 150-year-old house, 6,000 square feet. They're looking at about $150,000 to abate their property. Now they're going the Mercedes.
Right. Right.
You could probably cut that maybe 30-40% if they wanted to go the Volkswagen. But they're concerned about aesthetics, and they have what their wants and needs are. So we've tried to get them what they need, and he's making a decision right at the moment as to which company he's going to go with.
I see.
So we have prices all the way from $150,000 to $200,000.
I see.
That's unusual.
Right.
Most jobs end up being somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000, somewhere in that area. A lot of it depends upon if windows are changed out. If you have newer windows, replacing windows, that's a big ticket item on lead abatement. So if those are already taken care of, that lowers the cost. If you have vinyl siding or new coverage on the outside of the property, that lowers the cost too. Those are your two big ticket items. So if those are taken care of, it tends to lower the cost.
I see. So there are certain graphics that I'd like you to talk about. For example, like testing lead paint. There are certain guns or devices that you use to test lead paint. So those are the devices right there. Yeah,
that's an X-ray fluorescence machine, and that's the same. That's a similar machine that we use, another company, but the same kind. It does the same thing. It comes up with the level called in milligrams per centimeter squared. And what you do is you put the machine on the surface. There's X-rays, and they'll penetrate the surface. They'll go down 3/8 of an inch. They'll bounce back with the number on it within a couple of seconds.
Right.
And if the reading is greater than or equal to 1.0, it's considered positive for lead. If it's less than that, it's negative, you don't have to worry about it.
I see.
And if it's positive for lead, it's either a lead hazard or not a hazard. If it's not a hazard, you're not required to bring it in compliance. If it's a hazard,
right.
those are the ones you got to bring into compliance.
I see. And also, you can do it
The
by
lead check.
hand as well. Yeah.
The lead check is actually not a method that's used for compliance here in Massachusetts. The state doesn't recognize that as a viable testing method for compliance. But you can get these tests at your local hardware store, and they can give you some information on by using that using their product. But we found that there's a high probability for false positives with these. And so, if you really want to find out what's accurate, your best bet is to pay for somebody that's got a $15,000 X-ray machine versus a $5 check.
Right, right. So it makes sense. And this is how you remove lead paint?
Yes, actually, this company is doing removal of the trim around the windows, and you see that the guy is all suited up, has the mask.
Right.
That room is actually covered with 6 mil poly, or all the entrances are closed off. There's
Right.
two layers of it on the floor. All the heating ducts and all of that are covered over. And the reason being is, first of all, this dust can travel, and they want to contain the area because we have to come back in after the job is completed and verify they did the work, and we do that by visually doing it, and then secondly, by doing those dust wipes. So if they don't do the proper setup, containment, and cleanup, there's a good chance they're going to have a failure there, and then we have to come back again to do another set, and that costs money. So,
Right, right.
So-
So during deleading, how do family members protect their family members? For example, like any children under 6, or even leading up to teenage children. I mean, how do they protect their family members? I mean, should they move out of the house and stay in a hotel or stay in other homes, if you will? So how do they protect? Can they still live in the property while deleading?
They cannot.
They
If
cannot.
there's any dust generating work being done, they cannot be in the unit while that work is being done. If there's low risk work being done, that non-dust generating work, they can be there, but they can't be in the immediate work area. More often than not, there's dust being generated at when we're doing some kind of abatement. So as a result, the people who are living there, whether if it's an owner-occupied property, they have to be out of there. Everybody.
Everybody. Yeah.
If it's a rental unit, then they have to be out of there, and also the owner is required to take care of them for alternative living place until
Right.
the job is completed.
Wow. Okay.
And the
So-
first option is to put them, it's a multi-family house, if they have vacants, they can put them in the vacant.
Right.
We
right.
try to get people to say, well, if they can go with their mother and father, or with relatives or friends or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
That's,
see.
if you have 3 or 4 kids, even in a hotel room for 3 or 4 days, loses its glamour pretty quick, so.
I'm sure.
They may be better off
Yeah.
maybe with some friends or something,
Yeah.
so.
Sure. Yeah.
But the landlord is required to find them another place to stay while that work is being done, until it passes the re-inspection, where the visual passed and the dust wipes passed. And then people can move back in while work is being done in the exterior and/or common areas.
I see.
They can be there while that work's being done, but not in the unit if there's any dust generating work being done.
Right. Great. Yeah. I mean, thank you for sharing, and you just talk about, and the information is such helpful information for homeowners and landlords as well. So it is very important to share about lead paint and lead paint poisoning and deleading as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
With that all being said, any properties that were built before 1978, they might contain lead paint. Any children who are under 6 years old might get lead poisoning if the property is not deleaded, or if they live in a home that was built before 1978. As a homeowner or landlord, I think it is wise to spend the fund or invest into having the property deleaded or certified treated, if you will, because this will prevent health hazard, especially for children who are under 6 residing in a home. I want to thank you for being part of the show. See you next time.